U-GeekTV.
You know, what's crazy about this is there are people out here who are homeless, who are dealing with debt, who are dealing with like some real serious issues. And Sony has decided to take millions of dollars and put it into this bullshit. Let's get into it.
My son, never show mercy. They are prey. We are predators.
Welcome back to U-GeekTV. I'm your host, Jarius, Unapologetic Geek, and I am back for another review. And this time we are unfortunately talking about Kraven the Hunter. And the main thing I think about this movie is who the fuck is it and what the fuck is it for? That is what comes to mind when I'm watching Kraven. Now, Kraven the Hunter is not the worst movie I've seen this year. It has made it into that top 5 area, but it's not the worst movie I've seen this year. That still belongs to The Crow. And I've been talking about this when I get to movies that are terrible. And I haven't done this review yet, but trust me, Madam Web is one of the worst movies of this year as well. And Kraven the Hunter is better than that, but it's still fucking terrible. I usually do this and split this in two. I do a spoiler-free review on the front end and a spoiler-filled review on the back end. Nobody gives a fuck about this movie, so this is the review all the way through. Spoilers are going to be included because I cannot properly communicate how bad this movie is without spoiling it to really hammer home the point. Let's get the positives out the way. Aaron Taylor Johnson and Russell Crowe showed up and really gave Sony their money's worth with that casting. They play so well off of each other, playing as father and son. I mean, it's really good. Russell Crowe is a consummate professional. No matter what's going on, I've never seen this man phone in a performance. This film is no different. He is, honestly, in a way, he is a villain in this film. He's not a good guy at all. He is on the other side of the conflict with Rhino. And I'm not going to even go through and say the character's real name or the actor's name in this. It doesn't matter. But he and Rhino are in conflict, and Kraven is brought into this conflict. And Aaron Taylor Johnson is just okay until Russell Crowe elevates the film and they get on screen together. And from that point forward, I feel like Aaron Taylor Johnson stepped his performance up, and Russell Crowe he stood pat, maintained the status quo, and was just awesome at every turn. Those two performances, no, they're not worth seeing this movie. They're good, but they're not worth seeing this movie. Another positive, there are some standout action scenes in here. The bloodletting occurs early and often. I mean, Kraven is a badass character in this film. He's a badass character in the comic books. And they do a good job of conveying how badass he is in this film. Now, it gets a little shaky toward the end or whatever with one fight in particular that I may bring up. I think I got to bring it up. But for the most part, yeah, Kraven maintains his Bad-Assery throughout this movie. And yeah, I mean, when they're available on YouTube, check out the action scenes. They're worth it. Now, going from Bad-Assery to Head-Assery, let's talk about all the negative shit. First of all, this story is absurd. It is dumb as hell. Kraven gets his powers from essentially what equates to a radioactive lion. And no, the lion is not explicitly referred to as radioactive. I'm saying it's a radioactive lion because they gave him a similar origin to Spider-Man. Spider-Man is on a field trip, got bitten by a radioactive spider. Kraven is on a hunting trip and got bit by this lion that may be mystical and radioactive. I don't know, whatever the fuck. In the comics, Kraven gets his powers from an elixir. That elixir is also present. Where the lion and the elixir converge at is the lion abducts Kraven, is standing over him. He was shot by Kraven's father. The lion bled into the open wounds of Kraven, and then Kraven was given the elixir by his eventual wife in sequels that we won't get, Calypso. She gives him the drink, he drinks it, and then he's healed and he runs away from home. And yeah, it's a lot of dumb shit that happens. Now, Kraven's father chose him as the heir apparent over his criminal empire. Like Kraven was going to run the Russian mafia or whatever the fuck. And Kraven didn't want to do that, and he ran away from home and he became this badass hunter who kills poachers, which is not a bad story. It has that John Wick element to it, like you killed my dog and I'm going to kill everybody. I like Kraven being a representative for Peter and just killing poachers. Poachers are assholes, and I'm with it. The thing is, this movie doesn't stop with that. They don't stop with something basic as him being in a Russian mafia killing poachers, and he's involved in a war between his father and another Russian dude who has rhino powers. No, they don't stop it right there. Because honestly, on a basic level, that would have been enough. No, we got to try and tie it into like mystical shit. We got to set up other films, which that's stupid. There's a whole subplot with his brother Dimitri, which I saw what they were setting up ahead of time. Dimitri is eventually exposed as the chameleon, who in the comics was Kraven's real brother or half brother or whatever. So I mean, all of that stuff was tracking, but yeah, that was setting up more adventures with he and Calypso. There's this doctor who did experiments, which is why Rhino became Rhino and Chameleon became Chameleon. Like they had some stuff that they wanted to set up. Uh, Part two was probably going to be about Chameleon versus Kraven in a gang warfare thing or whatever. By the way, their father dies. Their father set up all this shit, and he wanted to bring Kraven back into the fold. So he gave Rhino information on who Kraven was, because Kraven is basically this boogeyman that in poacher and Russian mafia communities. And yeah, so it's a whole plot that's dumb. Trust me, I'm glossing over it, but it's not worth getting into at all. Now, if this sounds like a lot of action, like a lot of good shit is going on, this action pack, nope, that's not the case. This movie is slow as fuck. We spend almost 30 minutes on Kraven as a teenager for no reason at all. They could have set all this up way faster. I feel like I feel like explicitly trying to make sense of everything and tell audiences everything. Subtlety is a lost art. It is a lost art. People just don't know how to be subtle anymore. It's just out. But here's the thing: when we do need you to explain some shit, you don't do it. Case in point, The Foreigner. Now, I'm not saying it on some racist shit. Nah. There is a character in here called The Foreigner, and his powers are never explained. You see them, but they are never explained, to the point in which somebody who has read comics quite a bit growing up, but was unfamiliar with The Foreigner, had to, in the middle of the movie, get on my phone, look up who The Foreigner was to find out what his powers were. His powers are eye contact, people. When he makes eye contact, the person that he's looking at, that he's made the eye contact with, they perceive him as being like super fast, when really they're essentially paralyzed. That's what his power is. I bullshit you not. The movie doesn't tell you that. It doesn't help you to understand that. It kind of reminds me of the guy, the bad guy in The Crow. They don't help you to understand his powers either. It's really stupid. And speaking of The Foreigner, that gets me to that action scene that I semi referred to earlier in this review. Kraven and the Foreigner get into it in like the last chapter in the big action scene leading up to the climax or whatever. They get into it, and it's not, a back and forth fight, because Kraven is borderline overpowered in this film, by the way. Like, he's jumping from skyscrapers and shit. He's going through plate glass. He's hanging on to helicopters and keeping them from being able to take off for a little bit of time. Shout out to Steven Rogers, who also did that in The Winter Soldier. He is taking a beating throughout this film. Yeah, that was a Winter Soldier, right? No, that wasn't a Winter Soldier. That was Civil War. Anyways, moving on. He's taking a beating. Can't nobody kill this motherfucker. Like, he is that dude until he runs into the foreigner. Now, the foreigner shoots him with a bunch of poisonous darts that make him hallucinate and eventually paralyze him, right? And then he also has this powerful eye contact bullshit that he does. And I'm thinking to myself, boy, it'll be really cool if Kraven has to kind of go into his animalistic instincts and avoid eye contact and basically go through into this fight blind and rely on his other senses to defeat the foreigner. No, the foreigner really got the one up on him. He got him, had him dead to rights. And Calypso comes out of nowhere, shoots him with an arrow, and is like, die, motherfucker. That's essentially what happens. Shit is stupid. Like, this movie really is dumb. It's dumb. And I'm leaving out a lot of stuff with proper context. It's even dumber. And then right after he dies, Kraven pops up like a daisy, like nothing happened, and he's off to fight Rhino in a fight that honestly was decent given how it was. Rhino's condition is he starts to transform, but it causes him a lot of pain. I'm pretty sure it's because his skin is transforming and his body is essentially tearing itself apart to become bigger or whatever. But they get into this pretty decent fight, and he has this hole in his side or whatever where the pump is that keeps him from turning into Rhino on a day-to-day basis. Yeah, it's dumb. He has this whole thing going on. Kraven is able to penetrate the hole and kill him or whatever, but he also used Water Buffalo to help him out. This movie is absurd and it's not, I promise you, it is not good in a good way. I mean, it's not absurd in a good way. It's bad in the worst way. And now a plot twist that I saw coming, but it had to still play out or whatever. I felt like his father was on some bullshit, and it's revealed that he is on some bullshit. And that final conversation between Kraven and his father, that's actually a highlight again. Russell Crowe, Aaron Taylor Johnson, knock it out of the park. Kraven led a bear to his father, and that's how he kills his father. And it's one of those things that remind me of Batman and Batman Begins, where he's like, I got a no kill rule, but I'm not going to save you from this train. Kraven said he wasn't going to kill his father, but then led a bear to kill that motherfucker. And so he killed his dad. Anyways, I brought all of that up to say there is an element of this film where they kind of play with Kraven being able to control animals, and they never commit to it or lean into it. And his powers and the limits are never really explained. Also, it's a lot of stuff that's just like, fuck it, we wrote it and let's move on. The writing in this film is poor. The fact that millions of dollars went into this film to be made is ridiculous. And the fact that, again, there are people out here with real struggles, and you ask them to pay $20+ to come and watch your movie, and this is what you deliver. Now, I'm not somebody, that necessarily struggles as far as getting tickets and things like that. But I can empathize with that. Like, look, we're all adults. We're all seeing this inflation and all the bullshit that's going on in the world. And the fact that this is what people, studios, millionaires, churn out for the public to consume is just bullshit. It's bogus. And for those that aren't in the know, Kraven is also a Spider-Man villain. And the poison that he's shot with by the foreigner is meant to show your worst fears. Craven's worst fear, I bullshit you not. I'm not kidding. It's spiders. A recent report came out that Sony decided not to include Spider-Man in these Spider-Man villain universe movies on purpose. They could have, but they didn't. Some people say that's incompetence, and I'm inclined to agree to an extent. It's also incompetent that they didn't just use Spider-Man for another movie outside of the Marvel movies. But the other part of me says Sony knew that these movies were bad and they wanted to protect Spider Man's brand. And that is why Spider Man does not show up in these films. I just imagine when Kraven and Peter, whichever Peter Parker they used, when they met, it was going to be a situation where Kraven hated him because he was essentially a giant spider. That would have been one of the worst things we ever saw. Oh shit, I didn't give you the verdict. I'm pretty sure you can guess it. Kraven the Hunter gets an unapologetic bullshit rating. That is a 1 out of 5. It is a terrible movie. Like, it's really bad. Check out the action scenes when they're available on YouTube, but outside of that, it's and yeah, check out some of the scenes between Russell Crowe and Aaron Taylor Johnson when they drop on YouTube. But outside of that, it is not worth your time, man. Please, please save yourself the trouble and do not see this shit. Have you seen Kraven the Hunter? If you did, let me know what you think in the comments. Continue to like, continue to share, continue to subscribe. Thank you for everything you've done. And until next time, I'm Jarius, the Unapologetic Geek, and I am out.